Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. For today's video, I'm making a frosted meatloaf. This meatloaf is covered with a layer of mashed potatoes and is heavenly delicious. And for this recipe, I'm going to be preparing about 4 pounds of ground meat. I'm going to be using half beef and half ground pork. And the recipe is going to take 4 large eggs, Worcestershire sauce, and Dijon mustard, cilantro leaf, salt and pepper, thyme, ketchup, dark brown sugar, hot sauce, garlic, butter, about 1 stick of butter, apple cider vinegar, onion, cracker crumbs, milk, and potatoes. Make sure you check the description below this video for the amount of ingredients. I'm going to be boiling the potatoes covered with water with 1 tablespoon of salt until they are tender for about 20 minutes. Then I'm mixing the ingredients for a glaze I'm going to be using in the meatloaf. This is the ketchup mixed with the hot sauce, the brown sugar, and the apple cider vinegar. Mix everything well together and put it to the side until it's time to use it. Then in a skillet in high temperature, using about 2 tablespoons of the butter, I saute the onion and I'm going to mix them with the garlic. Cook them for about 5 minutes. Once they are cooked, then turn off the stove, put it to the side until it's time to use it. Then I'm going to be mixing all of the ingredients to season the meat. Starting with beating the eggs. Then I add to the eggs the cracker crumbs. Followed by half of the portion of the milk, which is about 1 cup. Then I go ahead and add the cilantro leaves. And I'm using for this recipe cilantro leaves because this is what I prefer, but you can use parsley leaf. Make sure you chop the leaves before you add it to the ingredients. Thyme, about 1 tablespoon of thyme. The Worcestershire sauce, followed by the Dijon mustard. Add a little bit of salt and pepper. And then I'm going to add the onions and garlic mixture. All of these ingredients are going to be mixed with the ground beef and ground pork. And it's going to be a wonderful recipe. Okay, now we're going to have fun mixing the ground beef with the ground pork and then adding the seasoning mixture. Just make sure everything is well mixed together. I spray with non-stick cooking spray the pan that I'm going to be using for this recipe, and I'm using a wire rack pan. I placed an aluminum foil on my working surface where I'm going to be spreading the meat, packing it up in a rectangle, and then I use the same aluminum foil to help me roll the beef into a loaf. By now I have turned on the oven and I set it for broil, about 550 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the highest temperature. I make sure everything is nice and packed together so there's no air pockets. And then I'm going to transfer this loaf to the baking pan. Once I transfer the meat to the baking pan, I remove the entire aluminum foil. But you can leave some aluminum foil underneath the meat while it's cooking. That way it's easier for you to remove the meat from the pan when it's finally cooked and done. I'm going to place this loaf for 5 minutes under broiling, the highest temperature in the oven. And 5 minutes later, I'm going to lower the temperature to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and I'm going to spread the glaze over the meat. Just using your brush, just spread it evenly over the entire loaf. Make sure you lower the temperature of the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 175 degrees Celsius. The meat is going to be cooking for about 45 minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to be mashing the potatoes. And I'm using the potato ricer for this purpose, but you can use a fork as well. However, it's more comfortable for you to mash the potatoes. Once the potatoes are mashed, then we mix the 1 cup of milk with the potatoes. We're using a total of 2 cups of milk in this recipe. One was used with the seasoning ingredients for the meat, and now this one for the potatoes. Then I add the 6 tablespoons of butter that were left. I used 2 tablespoons to cook or to saute the onions, and then the 6 tablespoons that are mixed now with the potatoes. Make sure the potatoes are nice and fluffy. Then we wait until the meat is out of the oven to use these potatoes. I'm taking the meat pretty soon out of the oven, so I'm going to prepare the potatoes to cover the meat with them. I spread a parchment paper on my working surface where I'm going to make a rectangle with the potatoes, an even layer of potatoes. about the length and the width of the meatloaf. You can spread the potatoes directly on the meat, just like if it was a cake, with the frosting, but for me, this is the way that is easier. That way, I make sure the entire loaf is covered with an even layer of potatoes. And I don't have patches of thin layers and other patches with a lot of potatoes. Now I'm going to cover the meatloaf with the potatoes. And make sure you raise again the oven to broil temperature. And make sure the potatoes are stuck to the meat and it's not detached. And the entire loaf is covered with potatoes. Make it nice and smooth, however you think look the prettiest. And this loaf is going to go back into the oven in broil temperature for about 5 minutes. And then it will be done. We almost finished. Okay, this is 5 minutes later. The loaf is out of the oven and I transfer to the serving plate. You're going to see how pretty this is. It's beautiful and it's delicious. So make sure you try this recipe soon. It's very easy and your family or friends are going to be impressed. So I hope you like this recipe, and if you like this video, don't forget to click like, subscribe to my channel, and also your comments are very welcome. So I hope to see you soon. I'll see you next time with my next video. Buen provecho and thanks for watching.